So that kind of lines up with the previous slide. And then $48 of tax expenditure per capita compared to 53. And then we currently have 139 acres of undeveloped acreage within our park system that we don't have to go buy, we just have to develop. Getting into departmental staffing, our recreation center, we have 3 full-time staff members and 4 part-time. Recreation / GSL, that's our sports programs. We have 4 full-time and 4 part-time. Our parks maintenance, we have 8 full-time and 4 part-time. And then our golf course is 1 full-time and 5 part-time. In the operational hours that we're open, the rec center's open 93 hours per week. So we have 93 hours of coverage per week that we have to provide. GSL operates 85 hours a week. Parks maintenance operates 7 days a week for 56 hours. And then the golf course has 91 hours per week that they're open. Getting into the golf numbers from this past year. Member rounds, we had 1,610. Weekday rounds, we had 2,915. And weekend rounds, we had 1,706 for a total of 6,231. So we're down about 1,500 rounds from last year.
Is this based on last year's numbers, or what's the time frame?
Yeah, this is last year's numbers. Yes,
okay.
Yes, sir. And so weather, we've had a lot of rain over the last 2 years, and so we were closed a record number of days last year. So we were down 1,500 rounds. Getting into our youth sports programs, we offered 27 leagues this year, or last year we had 197 teams. We had about 1,671 participants. We scheduled 788 games for the year. So that was up from the previous year. Into our adult sports programs, we had 8 leagues. We had 34 teams, 480 participants, and 136 games. And that's actually down from the previous year. And, I mean, it could be any number of reasons, but we feel that it has a lot to do with we just don't have a lot of parents involved in sports. Whether that goes back to them not being involved in high school or whatever the case is. Mr. Dean has yet to sign up for sport through us. So,
is there any adult sports that people are requesting that we don't have?
No, sir. I mean, the sand volleyball is probably the biggest adult sport that we have right now because I guess it's kind of like golf. You don't have to be good at it to enjoy it. And so we feel like that.
I don't know if he was talking about golf or sand volleyball.
Both. But no, I mean, we offer adult kickball, indoor flag. But, getting adults, typically it's a cycle. We get them when they're kids. They get into the high school level. Then as adults, they come back out and play if they were athletic in high school. So what our team is working on is how to market our programs to get the people that have never played sports to come out and play us. And so we've done that by dividing up our leagues so that we have competitive, non-competitive divisions. And so we think that's going to help moving forward. Getting into recreation attendance for our activities, we had our movies in the park. Last year we had 6 total, and so we had about 2,900. Our drive-in movies are by far the largest. We have about 500 people. So we had about 2,900 at the movies in the parks. Our recreation activities, our cornhole tournaments, dog training classes, things like that. We had about 1,700 that attended those, and then our tournaments were down to 3,500 from the previous year, mainly because our GSL programs have grown, so we have to play on Saturdays, so that eats up a lot of tournament time on the weekend. So we had about a total of 8,100 participants for our recreation activities. Special events, Bottle Rocket Bash. We guess last year was probably the biggest year I've seen yet. We estimated about 11,000 that were in the sports park and around the sports park, whether that was a high school parking lot or Lowe's. We had about 800 at the Easter Extravaganza. And then the Christmas parade, we had about 3,500 for a total attendance, about 15,300. Moving into capital improvements that we completed last year, Reese Davis upgrade. We had the tour. Some of y'all were there. We did a lot of things in Reese for the money we had. So we spent about $97,633 at Reese. Then we added a shade structure, $34,246 to the Redfield. And then we did purchase the event trailer for $95,888. So we had a total capital of $141,467. And these are some kind of pictures of things we did. We put the divider in the gym there at Reese Davis, which allows us to now separate that court, and we have 2 volleyball courts in there. And then that's kind of what we did with the exercise room. And this is us moving it up to the front of the building so that it can be open year-round to residents. And then the dance rooms, what we did were multi-purpose, so we added mirrors. We have a TV so you can do business presentations. We have a whiteboard in there so it could be a classroom. And then the art rooms, we updated all the sinks for the party rentals and things like that, just to try to make it easy for people to clean up. There's our shade structure we added on Redfield. That's the concession trailer. We are in the process of getting it wrapped, so we'll do something real decorative, dress it up. Moving into capital improvements requested for this upcoming year. We talked about it last year, zip lines. That's the most used piece of equipment we have within our parks. And so for us, part of that is going to be spreading out the people and spreading out the use on those amenities. So what we would like to do is put a zip line at Grand Park on the north end of town and then add a zip line at Oak Creek Park on the south part of town so that we have them in 3 different locations. We think it'll ease the use of this one because adults and kids love that zip, even though adults shouldn't. J-Lou? There's space out there we could put one, but just depends with where you guys want us to put it. We thought Oak Creek mainly because that's where all the construction's going on that end of town. We already have one kind of on the sports park, and then put one on the north end of town for Grand Park. But we could definitely look at J-Lou. It's not an issue. Oak Creek Park, actually. So Oak Creek Trail, phase 1, we presented this last year, be about $203,000, and that's to put a walking trail all the way around the outside of Oak Creek. And so here's Oak Creek Park on the corner of Jack Finney and Aerobic Lane. And so right now all that's there is there's a small pavilion, playground, and then a pond. And other than that, it's just open green space. So the master plan we have for that facility would be adding a dog park, putting trail all the way around the outside of it and adding basketball court, sand volleyball court, and an updated pavilion in the middle. And so for us to do phase 1, which is just the perimeter of the trail, would be $25,000 towards the survey and topo, 3,300 linear feet of trail, and then solar trail lights, similar to what they just put in Fate. Same company. So that come out to be about $203,000. And for us, it's important for us at Oak Creek just because that's where we don't have any other park space south of the interstate. That's the only place we got. However, that's where all the houses are being built right now. So try to ease some of the traffic at the sports park. I ran the numbers for somebody who called in today about the sports park, and the total numbers came out to be about 52,700 visitors a year just between daily use and all the activities that we have. Trails, yes, sir. 8 foot wide. Yeah, and the recommended NRPA recommended now is 12 feet wide walking trails. That's just a lot of money. It's a street. It's Monty Stratton. So future needs. First thing we feel like is developing our existing park space. Because of the acreage we have available, it's just putting amenities into it and really maximizing the total space we have. I know there's been some talk, and I've seen a couple of emails about adding more of the neighborhood parks. For us, I think from the park standpoint, it's kind of changed over the last 15 to 20 years, and that you don't have kids riding their bikes down to the park by themselves anymore. So, what a lot of cities have done is kind of focus that on to the developers, doing land acquisitions and proposed spaces per their development, and them working out. There's a lot of different variations towards that we can. So we're waiting on the comprehensive plan, which the first comprehensive plan actually called for that. And so we're thinking the second one's the same thing. So we work on an ordinance that would require that. Indoor athletic facility. At some point, right now we're maxed out when it comes to our basketball program. To get it done in the time frame we need, we use every elementary school gym in Reese Davis and junior high and high school. So we're using every facility they have currently. So at some point, we think that's going to be a need to continue to grow our programs. Sports park, splash pad, and parking. That's probably the most requested thing we hear from the community is on adding a splash pad at the sports park. The parking, we built a parking lot 2 years ago, coming up 3. And, the price then was almost $3,000 per parking spot. So we're definitely not getting it cheap. So the sports for a splash pad with a minimum of 20, you're looking at $1 million to $1.2 million. And that would get you 20 features, which would be double the size of James. So I think you need traffic at this. And then trail system. There's a lot of different grant avenues for trails. However, they really like to connect parks. They really like the connectivity. So for us, it's doing what we're asking in Oak Creek, going in and building our trail within our park. And then we would go to TxDOT or go to Parks and Wildlife and request grant money to connect parks. And so that seems to be the way most places are having a lot of success is connecting parks. And then, of course, a parks capital plan, where every year, the sports park is now 20 years old. I know it's hard to imagine, but it's 20 years old. So we're doing some crack sealing there now. One portion of it is going to cost $25,000, but the total came in to be about $120,000. That's neat. So having $300,000 that we can put towards replacement of old equipment or upkeep and maintenance of existing facilities, and $300,000 a year that goes towards new development, adding new amenities. If we could get something like that every year, we're fixing the old and we're putting in new. So I think that would be. Then I'll entertain any questions or comments.
How much did you have in budget last year?
Total budget?
Yes.
1.2.
1.2?
Yes, sir.
What are you requesting this year?
200 and
600,000?
Correct. 265,000.
Oh, that's what
your capital for this year.
You're requesting 265 this
Yes, sir.
Capital last year?
Well, wasn't,
Oh, no, my total budget. Capital last year was like 190, 97,
that was two questions.
141. So
Yeah, I was trying to find out how much you got last year, and
Okay.
how much you're looking to try and get this
we
year.
spent 141, 467. This year we were asking for 265.
Jerry, did you have some question?
Well, I think, first of all, what was your budget last year, and then how much of that was capital expenditures? I guess you might.
I'll have to
that way.
run, our operating budget's 1.2.
Okay, that's
And
what I thought.
then we had 141 on top of that.
Okay.
Under 1.5.
So your capital was 141,000
Yes, sir.
last year. Mostly for, yeah. So you're asking for 265 this year.
Yes, sir.
You said that we were down in our tournaments.
Mhm.
Is that purely based on our lack of available weekends, or is there a loss of demand?
No, I think you've got two things happening. Melissa just opened a 16 field complex that's turf, so rain's not an issue, and anybody that wants to come play there, they're going there. Triple Creek and McKinney, they're running 250 teams a weekend. So, to attract the teams to drive through McKinney to get to Greenville, really our sale was East Texas versus North Texas, and so availability of weekends is definitely an issue because our baseball season runs about the same. They start in February and run through June. So our baseball season starts in May and runs through June or April. So that is an issue on Saturdays. It's just the volume of games. But we were scheduled to have 87 baseball teams this year, so that's running 8 hours a day, using every field we have and playing on the soccer fields. So yeah, a lot of that, and you have everybody going to one big park, Big League Dreams Advancement. That place in McKinney, the place in Melissa, just because every weekend there's 100, 200 teams. So that's been kind of what we've seen.
Good presentation.
Any other questions?
Just have one more quick one.
Yes,
Are you carrying any major deferred maintenance items in any park facilities right now? Haven't caught up on?
No, sir. I mean, we're just now starting to look at the sports park. The concrete out there holds water right in front of Aunt Char's and that drive right there where it shifted. But to fix that, you have to cut out almost 400 feet, 500 linear feet to get it down to grade. So, those type that we're getting into the sports park right now. Everything else deferred. I mean, we've got Warren Park coming up in the next 2 years. We'll replace that playground. It was last replaced in 2009. But really, play structures are the only things we have in our other parks, with the exception of Grand Park and J-Lou and Sports Park.
Is there something wrong with the play structure there?
At Warren Park?
Warren Park?
No, sir. I mean, it's just coming up on time that, they usually run 15 years. So,
But is there, not just add a play structure, that one there, if it's operating?
yes, sir. Yeah. Or add them
My
in.
kids still like
Add a basketball court.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of things.
I do think that hot. There's a way to turn that down just
A little loud.
but I know that probably 10 years ago we had a lot of places that hadn't had park equipment for decades,
Right.
and we've done a good job. If we're looking at 11 years old as our
Right.
oldest park, that's fantastic work. But that doesn't necessarily mean it needs replaced.
No, and it's faded and we get calls about it, but those things you can paint that, you can recoat them. There's some things we can do.
And I'm not saying not to do it, because I think these kinds of improvements are the things that people are looking to move to the city are very noticeable and very attractive, to look and see that a city is investing in parks, recreation. So I think it's good. I just, and I think, yeah, if you could go to Warren Park and add something rather than replace something. I
Absolutely.
know that's for next year, but
Yes, sir.
Have you looked at the other exit road out of Sports Park? I know it's kind of a dirt gravel type thing. Have we looked at finishing that off, or
I can.
is there plans to do that?
That was something we definitely put in to try to do at some point, whenever we had a big enough volume of people that use it. I think we're only requesting them to come maintain it. It stays pretty decent shape. So, but I can definitely get a price for that.
Well, obviously at the fireworks, there's a big group, and I would think that if you have a lot of people show up for your weekend games, that would give them another way to get out of there, and it might alleviate some of the traffic.
Congestion. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
So
Yeah,
probably ought to look at that.
Yes, sir.
Anything else? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next, got Chief Smith going to tell us all about the police department.
Mayor and council, mine's not near as interesting. Parks and Rec, I'm afraid, but I'll do my best. Council goal number 5 is support public service, health, and safety. We're going to attempt to do that by increasing our staffing, continue our staff development, and address equipment needs. I want to start out here with a little bit of information. We looked at some numbers reaching back as far as 2014 up until April of this year. I'm just pulled out just a few items to share with you. For one thing, our calls for service average is pretty much holding at about 29,500 per year. From 2014, our arrests, and that's all custody arrests, are down 28%. Our traffic stops, that's both citations and warnings, we're down 2,286 in 2017, 2018. That caught my attention. Did a little looking into it, and that's when we had our traffic officer being tasked to cover a patrol district during our manpower shortage. At that time, I believe we were right at about 20% short. Our mental health cases, since 2014, we've had a 60% increase, which is considerable. And that's, we're talking about the time it takes to make a custody decision and to transport them to the proper facility. Often that means a stop at our local hospital for medical clearance and then to a mental health facility.
Where do you normally take them?
Well, it depends. If we do what is called an APAL, on arrest on what our observations are, typically go to Glen Oaks. Typically, I suppose we'd say we'd go to Hunt Regional, get a medical cleared, and then take them to Glen Oaks. If we suspect that they're having some kind of medical issue, perhaps an overdose situation, where Glen Oaks would not accept them at that time. If it's a mental health warrant, an EDO, we're directed by a magistrate on where to take that person. And it varies. I mean, you have hospitals that specialize in youthful people, juveniles, and then even up to the point of our seniors. They have different facilities, different treatment methodologies, and focuses. So it depends largely on what the mental health professionals advise the magistrates, where that person would best be served.
Okay.
If they have medical issues and
All right.
so I've already told you that traffic stops were down. They tend to stay down unless our traffic officers are there. When I'm using them for other manpower shortages, that's affected considerably. And along with that, we have about a 9.5% increase in major accidents. And I consider those a major damage to a person. One of the things, our goals is to turn that number back, start reducing those. In my opinion, aggressive traffic enforcement, directed traffic enforcement will affect that major accident. I gained that opinion from reading, research, life experiences, a career, that you can push accidents down, enforcement.
What does that 9.5% equate to in real numbers
Real numbers, oh gosh.
per year?
I had a real number with me, but I don't. Now I don't. I can get you that.
Do we have 500 major damage accidents? Have that many? Over 500? We do. Over 1,000?
I don't believe it's over 1,000. All right. So, and then we're all aware that we've had considerable growth in housing, retail industry, luckily. Our current district map, this district layout was instituted in 1992, a good while back for most of us. Our minimum staffing for a patrol shift is 1 supervisor, a sergeant or a lieutenant, and 4 officers. Our current conditions, our patrol divisions operates at 90%, most of the time at the minimum. Now, department-wide, we have 1 opening. We have nearly achieved our authorized strength. I have great hopes of accomplishing that in the coming month or 2. But right now, I'm operating at a 16% efficiency because officers have ineffective situations. Those situations are in a training status, haven't allowed them to go out on their own yet. Academy on our field training, where they've been injured in some way. They're out on workers' comp. And then, of course, we have a lot of young families, and they take advantage of the family medical leave for various reasons. So we're absent 16% of our force currently. And in the past, it's been 20, sometimes a little bit more. So if, for those of you who are familiar with Greenville, of 1992 to now, it's a difference. We've worked up a proposed district, what we call sectors, for future needs. Adding 1 additional officer, going to a 5 district. Now, some of these colors you'll see are very close to each other. I'll direct you to the bottom of the map, kind of 2 purple areas. That would be south. The purple and the blue, those are together. That would be north. And you have a darker red shade, 2 less, maybe pink, 2 greens, orange, and the yellow. Take the orange and the yellow and the 2 purples and put them together, black colors, you're looking at 5 districts. Moving out into the future, those districts can be cut in half and made into a sector as our population grows. Now, this wasn't just a pen and paper exercise on a map. These district sizes reflect the calls for service from those areas. So when we have requests for police service, we're able to track where they're coming from. This is an effort to shift from an old model to a newer model to have officers present where they need to. And of course, this is set up on a 5-year plan, but it will have to be evaluated each. There's factors that none of us here can see into the future. So it'll have to be adjusted to it. May have a budget boon or we may have a budget bust. But I am hopeful we will continue to boom. Now, with
So that plan proposes in 5 years to add roughly 13 officers.
13 officers, yes, sir. That's the total. And like I say, I have to put a little asterisk there. It depends on what every year brings. This is a plan that's going to have to live, not be static. But what we're proposing, next year's budget, is to add 2 officers. And that's a cost of roughly $840,000. That includes their salaries, training, academy, equipment. It adds up. So, all of these are based on our current salary and equipment. Yes. As you see in 2022, we again asked for 2 additional officers. Moving into 2023, 4 officers. 2024, 3 officers. 2025, 2 officers for that total of 13. One of the reasons that we wanted to go ahead with 2 officers 2021 is going to add 1 to patrol, 1 to traffic. That'll give me a pretty good balance. It'll relieve some of the shortages I experience patrol division. It'll also start bumping up our traffic enforcement to reach those goals of traffic safety. Again, the following year, 2 officers, 1 to CID, 1 to patrol. As our patrol officers generate additional cases, CID will have to grow along with it. So in 2023, that's a real good opportunity to strike out, work this into a 5-year plan, since many of the city's financial obligations will fall off. That's the reason for that bulk right there in 2023. In 2024, continue on, 2025 until we get to that 13. Have another asterisk for you. I've talked to you about being short, 16%. We're meeting most of our goals, I believe. We have not experienced yet what 55 authorized officers do, and that's currently our strength. We're always going to have some sort of deficiency, some ineffective officers because of their status. Not going to be able to put them to work. This will help relieve some of that. You may hear from Human Resources later on during this process about all the people that are eligible for retired. City, most of my senior staff's eligible. My officers, I have quite a few. And also, I just hired one a few weeks ago. Already has 19 years in, and it's going to be a few months, and he's eligible. But I was glad to get him. He's a young man. He's not going to be quitting time soon. So,
I have a question.
Yes.
Turn my volume down just a bit. All right. With these 16% out, I mean, I'm guessing the ones that are on workman's comp, we're getting reimbursement, something for their pay.
Something's worked out like that, yes.
Yeah, but in all of those, are we having to cover with overtime on a lot of that, or are you able to pretty much cover it with?
We move people around. When it's just really, really bad, we're doing okay at that 16% number right now. Yeah, we do use some overtime for various purposes. Have special events to contend with, unknown needs, emergency situations and such as that. But we're staffed and scheduled trying not to use overtime. It's an effective resource for sure. Because you can just add someone for the time period that you need them, whether it's 2 hours, 4 hours, 6, something of that nature. So it is used for that purpose.
But if somebody's out for 2 weeks, have a baby or whatever, you're not having to have all of that covered by overtime?
No, not all of it, but I can promise you there'll be some of it.
Well, I'm just trying to think if you were able to add 2 officers, there may not be a true increase in the budget of that much if you're able to decrease overtime. But
I can certainly look at that. I haven't looked at it or considered it from that angle. One thing about overtime, it's not attached to a person. So we're not paying retirement, Social Security, things that the city has to match, provide health insurance, dental insurance, and such. But at some point, these men and women, their tongues are just hanging out. They're tired. And tired officers get hurt. Tired officers make mistakes. Mistakes that I could pay for or this body. So I try to keep them as healthy and upright and work them too hard. Cover these holes in this. That's one thing that you have to be careful with overtime. And, you know, we're transporting more and more mental subjects. Also, our juvenile detention center closed down 2 or 3 years ago, and we never know where we're going to send folks. We had an overtime incident about a week or two ago now, where we took 4 juveniles into custody. 5. Thanks, Chief. We went to 3 different facilities at a minimum shift. Not fair to the other officers or the citizens to lead them down where I just got 1 or 2 officers on the street. That's not smart, not at all. Unwise. We called in people on overtime transport juveniles, and they went to various other counties. Some in East Texas. Sometimes we get as close as Grayson County. That's probably one of the closest right now. So some of the things that we factored in before changed or outside our capability. One of the things that we also need to consider in adding additional officers, we have a growing population in Greenville. Dislocated people. They don't have a roof over their head here in our city. Trying to make it, I suppose. The reality of it is a lot of these folks, and I'm not saying it's all of them, I'm not trying to paint them with the same brush, but they have mental illness or what are identified as mental illness. Some of it's brought on by drug abuse. Well, if you're abusing drugs, you have your ability to be employed or your desire to be employed is probably going to be diminished. Our society has left lots of gaps, and there's nobody else to step up except for us, police, and it'll be very limited. I propose that we start training at least 2 officers, mental health officers. There is a core curriculum in our field to handle mental health issues. Some cities with populations that are growing, the dislocated or the homeless, have found that we're a little bit bolder, a police officer, going and seeking those people out, have a comfort level that perhaps some other form of caretaker or social worker might not have. And we can find out, what do you need? Where do you want to go? Need help? Make your doctor's appointment. Just someone to catch up with. So, that's how we would like to address that. Our training and supervisory development, I think I've taken the opportunity to introduce you to some of our newer promoted officers. We have a closed system, civil service. All of my supervisors, my sergeants, my lieutenants, my captains are going to come from within this system. Of course, they all rise to their various places on their own merits. But in the past, we have not taken much time or dollars to develop them. And I would like to continue what we started last year by adding some additional dollars. Chief, you told me that was $4,500? It's roughly $4,500. We've identified some training opportunities. There is they call a Sergeant's Academy. And there's some additional state-sponsored training. Constable at the Law Enforcement Management Institute of Texas. We'd like to get our lieutenants in to prepare them for their roles that they've assumed by promotion. And also we have 2 tactical officer positions open that takes a little bit of time and consideration and dollars to train. Be safe and effective those duties. So, moving on to our capital request.
Got much more?
Nope.
Have much more?
No, sir.
Okay.
This command post, our 1988 model has been retired, no longer service. We need a mobile command and control in all emergency events. This will provide real-time communication with all the stakeholders in any emergency with both video and information stream. A major increase in communication capabilities. In fact, if we had an incident occurring right now and this body was together, you could view it. Sorry. But we're not asking for a bus. This is basically what we're looking for. We sought out some guidance from our fleet superintendent. Come to the conclusion this is the type of vehicle. And we also used this type of vehicle in a training exercise with the police and fire. It would also serve as a command post for both of us. And then moving forward, flashlights, $1,558. Those would be individually issued to each officer, circumstance after circumstance where flashlight gets left in the vehicle, lost it, don't have one really attached to your person. Broad daylight, you need a flashlight. So I'm proposing to outfit the officers with that.
What kind of flashlight costs that much?
Well, we're talking about 55 of them.
Yeah,
So
but that's
it's
still $120 each.
Yes, it's a Streamlight brand. They're very, very durable. We've had Streamlights in our inventory for as long as I've been here. Various models. I think up until probably the mid 2000s, we were using the Streamlight XL, and it is very, very durable. Easy to repair, replace parts. They stand behind it. Switch goes out, they fix it. Everything but batteries. But last year we started a shotgun replacement program. This would be the second year adding our tactical team so that they will have the same weapon platform as the patrol officers. Less of a stretch to learn a different type of weapon. And we're replacing shotguns that are up to 27 years old. Tactical lighting system for the tactical team officers, $16,277. An infrared sighting system that allows officers to see the threat prior to being seen. Major increase in safety when operating in darkness. Right now we illuminate them with white light. Any questions? Yes. They pop up from time to time for various types of initiatives. Some of them we would not qualify for because of our size. They're larger initiatives. But we can, yes. We keep an eye out for personnel grants. Typically, they'll fund them for a year to maybe 3. The city picks that up from there, but it is savings.
Okay, anything else? All right, thank you.
Welcome.
All right, next we have Talia going to tell us about administrative services.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Admin services, as you know, covers finance, central services, which is building maintenance, custodial staff, fleet, which is all of our vehicles, information technology, and then municipal court. So just an overview of municipal court. They take care of payment plans, of course, for citations. They maintain and they update warrant information. They set up and they schedule the court docket, jury summons, pretrials, arrangements for the judge, and then they enter and assess code violations. Just to look at last year's numbers and then this year's numbers year to date. Of course, this year across several of these departments, you'll see numbers are obviously a little bit skewed because we've had our court closed. Citations aren't being processed as usual. Last year, for the whole fiscal year of 18-19, active traffic cases was 2,163. And then to this point, in this fiscal year, we have 1,956. And then non-traffic cases, which is everything else, last year we had around 1,700. This year, year to date, we're right around that same number to this point. Finance, we provide accounting services for both the city and Juice. Of course, we do the annual budget process, which we're doing right now, and financial planning. We also do our financial statements every year with everything purchasing card related, cash management, investing, and then our monthly financial report that you see and everything that comes in between all of those items. I look at finance by the numbers. Last year, total checks and bank drafts, so that's any type of payment that we made to anyone, did just a little over 10,000 in the 2018-2019 year. And then this year, to this point, we're at right around 5,600. Cash receipts processed, so anytime someone brings in or calls in a payment over the phone, last year just over 2,000, this year just over 1,300. And then journal entry line items. So anytime we hit a debit or a credit, last year we did just over 40,000. This year we're at almost 27,000 to this point. Central services, facilities maintenance, that's any custodial services. So everything from cleaning to various repairs and maintenance items around the city buildings. Scheduling and contracting for the Civic Center and the auditorium. Event setup and breakdown, and then special event staffing. Facilities maintenance by the numbers. Right now we have 22 buildings that we service and maintain, which amounts to just over 148,000 square feet. Looking at our events that we had here at the Civic Center, last year we staffed 202 events, which is actually up. I think the year before we had something like 175 events here. So we're significantly, but we increase events every year. It seems like it's a more popular place to have events. Obviously, this year to this point, we've had several cancellations due to COVID, and so that number is not trending up as it would normally be. We will have, as far as building maintenance goes, we'll have another presentation later in the budget process once we've met with all the departments. To kind of gather up what those needs are. So there will be a more detailed presentation on, what our plan is moving forward. But right now, for next year, we're looking at a new roof for the municipal auditorium. Currently, the one we have leaks several places every time it rains. So that'll be an expense. We're continuing with our air conditioner replacement plan. We're looking at about 9 units for this year at our typical cost of around $20,000 to $30,000. And then our carpet cleaning rotation is going really well. Our LED parking lot light replacement plan is going really well. So we're trying to develop more and more of those plans where these maintenance issues are just a normal thing and not a big problem that we have to address all at one time. But like I said, you'll see a much more detailed presentation on all of that as we get towards the end of the budget process. Fleet maintenance. This is another central services department. Of course, they take care of basically all of our city vehicles, equipment, trailers, basically everything that comes in and out of the shop. They track those vehicles for their best replacement point, and then they coordinate our auctions. Of course, last year we started working with Enterprise, so that's going really well. We just got those, pretty much all of those vehicles are in, maybe all of them are in to this point. We started getting them in February, majority of them came in March. Outfitted with their various equipments. So we'll start seeing the benefits of that as time goes on. Vehicles maintained and serviced is 130. That includes the emergency vehicles. Equipment units and trailers maintained and serviced is 112. So that's anything from small to large equipment. And then there's various vehicle and equipment inspections that they also perform on a regular basis. Of course, our emergency equipment goes through much more frequently, with police being weekly, fire being monthly, and then everything else at least quarterly. And then information technology. As you guys know, these guys stay very busy. They do a really good job for us. We appreciate them a lot. They do everything that we see, everything that we don't see, from regular system backups to looking at new technology to make our jobs easier and possible. Keeping our software and our hardware up to date. Maintaining and servicing our laptops, desktops, printers, servers, phones, everything that you can think of. And then, most importantly, making sure that our network stays connected, stable, and functional. Just looking at some numbers, our software programs, we currently maintain about 31, and then about 96 hardware units. Looking at the number of help desk tickets, requests, phone calls, all of those average together around 2,300. So our IT staff, very, very busy, keeping everybody online, working. Oops. That's it. Have any questions? kind of a lot.
Any questions?
Yeah, I've got just a couple. You mentioned that you do finance. What level of finance?
So they do their own budgeting, and they maintain their own budget. But basically, all of the things that are shared. So just for an example, like within HR, there's something called other post-employment benefits accounting that has to happen. So if it's like at a city level, we do it in our office. We process all of their checks. They all come through ours. We have a bank account, so every payment that goes out on behalf of comes through our bank account.
We bill them for our financials.
Yes, it's through cost allocation.
Okay. Same with IT support and
Correct.
thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. All right, we've got about 6-7 minutes before we open the meeting. Unless we've got anything else, Summer. Okay. At this time, I'll close the work session and we'll start the regular session at 6 o'clock.